You ever get beat down so bad, the world thinks you'll never rise again? Well, baby, I rose, and I came back as WINGIN single quotes. Now, before we dive into this wild little tale of betrayal, bruises, and one hell of a comeback, hit that subscribe button right now, cause this ain't your regular grandma story. This one's got revenge hotter than a summer in Harlem, and it ends with karma served fresh off the grill. Alright, buckle up. Let me tell you how my own son thought he buried me, and how I pulled up to his backyard party with the cops instead. Name's Margaret Russo, 72 years young, born and bred in the Bronx, but my kingdom, my baby, that was a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, worth more than some Wall Street kid's whole portfolio. Don't let the wrinkles fool ya. I wasn't always Granny Russo. Back in my day, I was Mags the Magnificent. I started with nothing but a busted stove, a dream, and a recipe for meatballs that could make a man confess his sins. My catering business? Oh honey, it was legendary. I fed mayors, millionaires, and mobsters who tipped in silence, worked 7 days a week, saved every dime, and turned that tiny kitchen into a gold mine. By 50, I owned 3 brownstones and a retirement plan fancier than my ex-husband's second wife. I didn't come from money. I made it, brick by brick, dish by dish, with grit under my nails and God in my corner. And everything I did, everything, was for my son. Daniel. Daniel was my pride and joy. I raised that boy solo since he was 8. His father ran off with some Vegas lounge singer, so it was me and Denny against the world. I worked doubles, skipped vacations, and made sure he went to the best schools money could buy. He was a handsome kid, smart too, got that Russo charm, the kind that could talk a nun into breaking curfew. But charm don't equal character. And somewhere between college loans and new girlfriends, my boy learned how to take, not earn. When he met Brittany, I should have seen the red flags right away. She came to Sunday dinner wearing fake pearls and a real attitude. Called me Margie instead of Mrs. Russo. Kept staring at my diamond bracelet like it was already hers. But I bit my tongue. You know how mothers are. We want to believe our babies chose right. Next thing I knew, they were moving into my guest suite just for a while. Brittany said it was till they got back on their feet. That was 2 years ago. At first, it was fine. I loved having family under my roof. But slowly, things started changing. The house got louder, messier. My wine started disappearing. My checkbook started walking. And every time I asked Daniel about it, he'd say, "Ma, you're forgetting things again. Don't stress yourself. Forgetting? Baby, I might be 72, but my mind's sharper than a credit card decline." Still, I let it slide, 'cause that's what moms do. We make excuses for our kids until the excuses start bruising our hearts. Then came the little things that didn't add up. Jewelry missing, a withdrawal I never made, Brittany suddenly driving a brand new car she got on sale. Yeah, right. And I'd hear them whispering when they thought I was sleeping. Words like power of attorney and transfer of ownership. That's when the gut feeling hit. That deep, cold pit in your stomach that tells you something ain't right. So one morning, I went down to the bank myself. The teller looked confused when I asked for a balance printout. And baby, my knees almost gave out when I saw those numbers. Thousands gone. Not 1, not 2, thousands. I felt my heart stop. My hands shook, but I kept my chin up and said, "Thank you, sweetheart. Appreciate you." 'Cause one thing about me, I don't scream when I'm mad. I plan. That night, I sat at my dining table, lights low, looking at my life spread out in receipts and bank statements. And I made a decision. If my son and his wife thought I was just some old fool they could bleed dry, they were about to learn what Russo blood really means. But before I could even act, Before I could even confront him, life threw me one last punch. Literally. And that, my friend, is where everything changed. You ever notice how people show you who they really are the minute they stop needing you? That's exactly what happened in my house. After that first whiff of betrayal, the missing money, the hush-hush whispers, I started watching real close. And baby, when I tell you it was like living with two snakes in designer shoes. Believe me, I ain't exaggerating. At first, it was small stuff. Brittany taking my good towels, claiming she accidentally used the wrong ones. Daniel borrowing my credit card for gas money and somehow racking up charges at a steakhouse I couldn't afford on my best day. Then came the lies. Ma, don't worry, we're just saving you the stress. Ma, you signed those checks weeks ago. Remember? Ma, you're getting old. You forget things sometimes. Like hell I did. My memory's fine. It's their morals that were slipping, see? Brittany had Daniel wrapped tighter than a deli sandwich. She'd whisper in his ear, play the victim, and suddenly my boy, my baby, was looking at me like I was the problem. You know how betrayal feels when it comes from your own blood. It's like getting stabbed with your own kitchen knife. You recognize the handle. One night, I was sitting at the kitchen table going through my mail. Bills, business papers, all the usual. When Brittany strutted in with her fake nails clicking on the tile. She had a champagne glass in one hand and my silk robe on like she owned the place. Margie, she said, smirking like a damn villain. You should really think about putting the house in Daniel's name in case something happens to you, you know? For safety, my ass. That woman didn't want safety. She wanted security. And it came with granite counters and a mortgage-free deed. I looked her dead in the eye and said, sweetheart, nothing's happening to me except living long enough to outdance you at your next wedding. Her smile twitched. She didn't like that one bit. After that, she started using Daniel like a puppet. He'd storm into my room late at night shouting, why can't you trust us, Ma? Why can't you let us help? Help. Baby, they were helping themselves. Still, part of me held on. That mother part. The one that keeps hoping your kid'll wake up and remember who raised him. So I stayed quiet, pretended not to notice. But they pushed and pushed and pushed. Until the day Daniel crossed the line. It was a Saturday. I remember cause I was mac and sauce for Sunday dinner. Slow, thick, the way my mama taught me. The kitchen smelled like tomatoes, basil, and betrayal. Daniel came in holding my checkbook. He didn't even bother hiding it this time. Ma, he said, you need to sign this over. It's just paperwork. Brittany, and I need some of the business funds transferred for a new venture. I wiped my hands, turned off the stove, and looked at him long and hard. Daniel, I said slow, do you even hear yourself? That's my business, my money, my life you're talking about. I gave you everything, and you're still hungry for more. He scoffed, rolled his eyes. That same little brat look from when he was 10, and I caught him stealing cookies. Only this time, the cookies were worth 6 figures. Then it happened. He slammed the checkbook on the counter, got right in my face, and shouted, you don't get it, Ma. You owe me. You wouldn't have this house if it wasn't for me. You'd be nothing. And before I could even blink, he shoved me hard. My back hit the counter. Then the floor. The air rushed out of my lungs, and for a second, I saw stars, real ones. He froze. Brittany gasped. But me? I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just looked up at my son, my own flesh and blood, and said, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. He mumbled something about not meaning it and stormed off. Brittany trailed behind him, fake tears and all. I sat there on the floor for a good while, my side aching, my heart feeling like it cracked in two. But deep down, Something else was bubbling up. Something stronger than pain. It was fire. Cold, steady fire. See, that's the thing about women like me. We don't stay down. We heal. We rise. And when we come back with receipts. That night, I packed my bags. One suitcase, a folder of documents, and every shred of dignity I had left. I didn't even tell Em I was going. Just slipped out quietly, walked past the backyard where they were laughing and drinking, and called myself a cab. When the driver asked, "Where to, ma'am?" I said, "Anywhere but here, sweetheart." He drove, and as the city lights blurred past, I made myself a promise. I wasn't coming back till I had everything they stole. And then some. The next morning, I woke up on my best friend Millie's couch in Queens. She took one look at me, the bruise on my cheek, the fire in my eyes, and said, "Girl, what the hell happened?" I told her everything. She sat quiet for a minute, then leaned back and said, "They don't even know what storm's coming." She was right. Because the next move, it was all mine. And baby, I was about to turn that betrayal into a legal beatdown for the ages. Asterisk. Let me tell y'all something. Pain changes people. It don't matter how rich you are, how strong you are, or how fancy your address is in New York City. When your own blood puts their hands on you, something inside you snaps. It's like the soul of every woman before you stands up and says, "That's enough." That night, as I lay there on Millie's couch with an ice pack pressed against my cheek, I kept replaying it in my head. Daniel's face twisted in anger. Brittany smirking behind him, like she'd finally won. But baby, that bruise, it wasn't a mark of shame. It was my wake-up call. See, I had spent years thinking love meant loyalty, that if I just kept giving, they'd stop taking. But now I realized some folks don't stop taking till you slam the door and lock it tight. So I decided right then, I wasn't just gonna walk away. I was gonna make sure they felt every ounce of the pain they gave me. In court, Millie handed me a cup of chamomile tea and said, "Mags, you gotta call the police." I shook my head. "No, not yet. The cops'll handle the bruise. I'm gonna handle the betrayal." She stared at me like I'd lost it. But I hadn't. For the first time in years, I was thinking clear. I stayed quiet the next 2 days. Let the swelling go down. Ate soup. Slept. Watched old reruns of The Golden Girls and thought, Blanche would have decked him with her purse. By Monday, I was ready. I called my lawyer, Mr. Thompson, who's been dealing with my business stuff since the early 2000s. He's one of those no-nonsense Manhattan types. Sharp suit, sharper mind. He picked up and said, "Mrs. Russo, been a while. What can I do for you?" I said, "Calm as silk, Mr. Thompson. I think it's time I take my house back." He chuckled, thinking I was joking. "Take it back? Did you sell it?" "No," I said. "My son and his wife think they did." Dead silence. Then he said, "Tell me everything." And baby, I did. Every forged check, every shady signature, every bruise that matched a date on a bank withdrawal. When I finished, he exhaled real slow and said, "Mrs. Russo, if what you're telling me is true, we've got grounds for fraud, assault, and unlawful occupation. I can file the paperwork tonight." That's when I smiled. The kind of smile that scares people more than a scream. But fate wasn't done showing me just how low they'd go. That very night, while I was sitting at Millie's kitchen table sorting through old receipts, my phone buzzed. It was my neighbor from Brooklyn Heights, Ellen, bless her nosy little soul. She texted me, "Margaret, I don't know how to say this, but they're throwing a party in your backyard." I blinked. "A party? As in, a celebration?" I called her right away. "Ellen, what do you mean they're having a party?" She sighed. They got a DJ, balloons, catering. Brittany's telling people. She's finally gone. The house is ours now. You ever feel your heartbeat drop into your stomach? That's what it felt like. There I was, sitting in Queens with a bruised cheek, while the people I raised and fed were popping champagne in my backyard, laughing about how I was finally gone. Millie looked at me, waiting for me to explode, but I didn't. I just took a deep breath, sipped my tea, and said, "Let end toast, Millie. Tomorrow, there'll be toast. See, here's what they didn't know. I still had every scrap of paperwork that proved that house was mine. Every deed, every contract, every damn electric bill in my name. And now, I had a lawyer who was ready to swing harder than a Bronx baseball bat. So while Brittany was dancing under string lights, and Daniel was bragging to their freeloading friends about their new life, I was sitting across from Mr. Thompson in his glass office in Midtown, signing an affidavit with one hand and holding an ice pack with the other. He looked at me and said, "You sure you want to go through with this? This is family." I smiled. "Mr. Thompson, they stopped being family the minute my son raised his hand at me. This is business now." He nodded and started typing. The sound of those keys tapping was sweeter than church bells by midnight. The documents were ready. Fraud, forgery, illegal occupancy, and one beautiful little eviction order waiting for the judge's signature first thing in the morning. I left that office walking taller than I had in years. Yeah, my face still hurt. My ribs still ached. But my spirit, oh baby, my spirit was unbreakable. I took a cab back to Millie's, leaned my head on the window, and watched the lights of Manhattan flicker like diamonds. It hit me right there. I wasn't broken. I was reborn. And as the cab rolled past the bridge, I whispered to myself, they think Granny's gone, but Granny's just getting started. The next day was Sunday. Sun was shining, birds chirping, and Karma was stretching her legs Dotmer. Thompson called at 8:15 Emmy Sharp. "Mrs. Russo," he said, "the judge approved everything. We can move in with the NYPD today if you're ready. Ready? Honey, I'd been waiting for this moment since that bruise turned purple. I put on my best outfit. Black coat, pearls, hair pinned up like I was heading to a board meeting in heaven itself. Looked in the mirror, winked, and said, let's go take my house back. When I tell you I've never felt more alive than that Sunday afternoon, believe me. There I was, 72 years old, in my finest coat, pearls gleaming, heart pounding like a snare drum. Millie sat beside me in the cab, whispering, Mags, you sure you want to do this? And I told her, baby, this ain't a want. This is a necessity. Because when somebody disrespects you in your own house, the only language they understand is reclaiming it. We turned the corner onto Brooklyn Heights, and there it was, my home. Music bumping, laughter spilling out the windows, smoke rising from the grill. And right there in my backyard, under the oak tree I planted with my late husband, stood my son Daniel, flipping burgers like he owned the damn world. Brittany was strutting around in my silk robe, my robe, holding a mimosa and shouting to new beginnings. Oh, honey. She had no idea her ending was walking through the gate. The cab pulled up, and the NYPD officers stepped out first. Two of them, Officer Lewis and Officer Chen, both looking like they'd seen this movie before. Mr. Thompson followed right behind, carrying a stack of papers thicker than Brittany's eyelashes. I took one deep breath, adjusted my pearls, and opened the gate. The music stopped. Every head turned. You could have heard a pin drop. Daniel froze mid-burger flip. Brittany's mouth dropped open so wide, you could have parked a subway train in there. Mom? Daniel stuttered. What are you doing here? I smiled, sweet as poison. Oh, don't mind me, sugar. I just came home. The crowd started whispering. Someone turned the music down completely. I walked straight past the folding tables, past the champagne glasses, and stopped right at the patio steps. This place looks different, I said. Funny how fast a house changes when a thief decorates it. Brittany gasped like I'd slapped her. I hadn't. Yet, you can't just barge in here. She snapped. We live here now. That's when Mr. Thompson cleared his throat and stepped forward like a man delivering the 10 Commandments. Actually, Mrs. Russo owns this property, he said, loud enough for the whole block to hear. Here's the court order, signed by Judge Morales. You and your husband are hereby ordered to vacate the premises immediately. The whole backyard went silent. Daniel blinked like he couldn't believe it. Mom, you can't do this to me. You did it to yourself, boy. I cut him off. When you raised your hand at your mama and forged her name, you signed your own eviction. Brittany's face turned redder than her cheap lipstick. This is insane. We made this house better. We painted, we renovated with my money, sweetheart, I said. So technically, you just redecorated my investment. Even the cops were trying not to laugh. Daniel threw down the spatula. You think you can just walk in and ruin our lives? No, I said, taking a step closer. You ruined mine. I'm just repossessing what's left. Brittany started crying, dramatic as always. Mascara streaking like a raccoon. We have nowhere to go. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, I hear they got nice rooms at the Marriott. Maybe they'll take your fake apology as a deposit. That's when Officer Lewis stepped up. Sir, ma'am, he said to them, you're legally required to vacate now. We'll give you 15 minutes to gather your belongings. And baby, the way Brittany's jaw dropped. You could see her whole rich daughter-in-law act crumble right there on the patio. Daniel stormed off inside, slamming doors, muttering curses. I didn't flinch. I just looked around at the guests. Half of them already grabbing their coats like they didn't want to be caught in the middle of Divine. Karma. Then I spotted something on the buffet table. A cake. Big, pink, frosted thing with gold letters that said, "Goodbye, old lady." Oh, that was the cherry on the betrayal sundae. I walked over, looked right at it, then took a fork, scooped a bite, and said, tastes like regret. 15 minutes later, Daniel and Brittany came dragging out their suitcases, both looking like deflated balloons. Daniel wouldn't even meet my eyes. But Brittany, oh, she had the nerve to hiss under her breath, "You'll regret this." I smiled. Darlin', I already did. That's why I fixed it. Mr. Thompson nodded to the officers, who escorted them out without another word. The gate shut behind them, and just like that, silence. My backyard was mine again. My home was mine again. The air even smelled sweeter, like the house itself was breathing a sigh of relief. I stood there a moment, taking it all in. The oak tree, the wind chimes, the memories. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a burden. I felt like a woman who'd just reclaimed her throne. Millie came over and wrapped me in a hug. You did it, Max, she whispered. You really did it. I nodded, my eyes stinging just a bit, not from sadness, but from something heavier. Yeah, I said, but I didn't win. I survived. We sat on the porch swing, watching the sun go down, and I thought about how love can twist when greed walks in. How the people you die for will sometimes bury you first, with smiles on their faces. But here's the thing about betrayal. It don't end you. It educates you. I learned that no matter how old you are, no matter how much they think you're weak, there's power in standing up and saying, no, not today. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, lit a candle, and sat by the window. And I whispered, thank you, Lord, for teaching me that sometimes losing people is the only way to find peace. Then I raised my glass to the quiet house and said, to freedom, to peace, and to finally eating the damn cake. Moral of the story: don't ever let anyone, not even your own blood, make you feel small in your own story. Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're self-respect with a backbone. And if someone tries to steal your peace, remember this: you can lose money, time, and love, but the moment you get your dignity back, that's when you become untouchable. You'd think after all that, the cops, the cake, the chaos, I'd just sit back, sip tea, and let karma handle the rest. But nah, baby. Karma needed a little help from me. See, the thing about being a 72-year-old millionaire, people forget your mind's still sharper than their credit scores. They think you're fragile, forgetful, easy to fool. But what they don't realize, you've been playing life's game longer than they've been alive. So while Daniel and Brittany were crying about losing their house, I was already 10 steps ahead. The next morning, I woke up early, the house still quiet. Just me and the sound of the city humming outside my window. The same window where I used to watch Daniel play as a boy. That memory stung a bit. I won't lie, but sometimes you gotta feel the bruise before you can stop bleeding. I got dressed, threw on my navy blazer, the one that screams, "Don't mess with grandma," and headed to my lawyer's office again. Mr. Thompson smiled the moment I walked in. "Mrs. Russo, you look different," he said. "That's 'cause peace looks good on me," I told him. We sat down, and I slid him a folder. Inside, a brand new will. I had spent all night thinking about it. Who deserved what? Who didn't? And spoiler alert, my son and his wife, they didn't even make the first page. "You sure about this?" Thompson asked. "You're cutting your only son out entirely?" I leaned back, crossed my legs, and said, "He made that choice when he raised his hand to me. See, forgiveness don't always mean reunion. Sometimes forgiveness means moving on without looking back. I decided every penny of my estate, my businesses, my properties, my investments would go into a community foundation, scholarships for single mothers, food programs for the elderly, legal aid for domestic abuse survivors, real cousins, real people who'd never lay a hand on the ones who helped them. I wanted my money to outlive me, not rot in the hands of people who'd already buried their souls in greed." When Thompson handed me the pen to sign, I grinned. "You know," I said, "this is the best revenge there is. No yelling, no fighting, just paperwork and peace. And that's the truth right there. Silence is loud when you've got power behind it. That's what quiet revenge feels like. Not about getting even. It's about getting better." A few weeks later, I got a letter from Daniel, handwritten, no return address. I could tell from the shaky handwriting he wasn't doing too hot. He wrote, "Mom, I'm sorry. Brittany left me. I lost everything. I don't know what came over me. Please forgive me." And I did. Not for him, but for me. Because I wasn't about to carry his poison another day longer. But forgiveness don't mean a free pass. So I wrote back, "Son, I forgave you long ago. But until you learn what love really means, you can't come home." I sealed it, sent it, and that was that. Haven't heard from him since. But sometimes silence is closure. Now don't go thinking this story ends sad. Oh no, baby. It ends with me thriving. I turned my backyard into a community garden. The same backyard where they once toasted my good riddance. Now, kids from the neighborhood plant tomatoes there every Saturday. I host Sunday dinners for the elderly folks on my block. We laugh. We eat. We swap stories about wild family drama. 'Cause honey, every grandma's got one. And let me tell you, Nothing feels better than turning the place where you were disrespected into a sanctuary for love and laughter. One afternoon, my friend Millie said, "You could have sold this house and moved somewhere fancy. Why stay here?" And I said, because they thought they took my peace when they took my space. But peace ain't in a house, baby. It's in the person who owns it. Every corner of that home reminds me not of pain, but of power. The power to walk away. The power to start over. The power to come back on my own terms. Sometimes I catch my reflection in the mirror and think, damn, Mags, you really did that. I ain't the fragile grandma they thought I was. I'm the storm they didn't see coming. And if you're watching this, listen close. Don't let anyone trick you into thinking your kindness makes you weak. Kindness is patience wearing armor. It forgives, but it remembers. It bleeds, but it rebuilds. And when you've been broken by the people you love most, the sweetest revenge is not destroying them. It's living so well, they can't stand to see you shine. So yeah, they threw a backyard bash thinking Granny was gone. But I pulled up with the cops and walked away with my crown. If my story hit you in the gut, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, 'cause we got more real-life tales of strength, sass, and sweet revenge coming your way. Remember, life might knock you down, but baby, you're the one who decides if you stay there. This is Grandma Mags. Signin off, pearls on, papers signed, peace restored. You ever notice how life's got a way of circling back around, slow, steady, and meaner than a tax audit? Yeah, that's what happened next. See, when you stand tall again after people bury you, word gets out. And in New York City, honey, word spreads faster than a bodega rumor. It started a few weeks after I kicked Daniel and Brittany out. I was sitting on my porch one morning, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise bounce off the skyline like God's own spotlight. That's when my neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, came jogging by and said, "Mags, you're all over the neighborhood Facebook group." I raised an eyebrow. "I don't even got Facebook." She grinned, breathing heavy from her jog. "You do now, honey. They calling you Brooklyn's boss granny." And just like that, my story, my pain, my comeback, turned into legend. Somebody must have recorded that eviction, 'cause the video started floating around online. It had everything. Me walking in with pearls, the cops, Brittany screaming, Daniel looking like a busted papata. The caption said, "Don't mess with Grandma." She pulled up with receipts, and baby, it went viral. I mean, folks were doing it, remixing it, even macking merch. One shirt said, "Granny don't play, she litigates." I ain't even mad. I ordered 3 of them. But the best part, people started reaching out. Single moms saying, "You gave me the courage to leave." Older women saying, "You reminded me I still got fight left." Even some young guys wrote, "I needed to see this. My mom raised me right." And that's when I realized my story wasn't just mine anymore. It was every woman who'd ever been silenced, bruised, or underestimated. Now, as for Daniel and Brittany, oh, sugar, karma don't need GPS. It finds you. Turns out, after they lost the house, Brittany tried to keep her little influencer gig going. She posted a teary video about being betrayed by family. But people already knew the truth. The comments section, brutal. "Girl, you forged your mother-in-law's name. Sit down. You messed with Brooklyn's boss granny. There's no comeback from that." She deactivated within a week. Daniel, bless his heart, tried to rebuild his life. Got a job at a hardware store across town. And one day, guess who walked in? My lawyer, Mr. Thompson. He told me later, "Your son didn't even look me in the eye. Just said, 'Tell Mom I hope she's happy.' And you know what? I am. Not because he's suffering, But because I'm finally at peace. C, people think revenge is about making others hurt like you did. But real revenge? It's peace that don't include M anymore. It's waking up without dread. Cooking breakfast to your own playlist. Laughing without watching who's JUDG in single quotes. And when you've tasted that kind of peace, baby, it's addictive. One Saturday afternoon, I hosted a barbecue in that same backyard, same spot where they once toasted to my good riddance. But this time, it was filled with people who actually gave a damn. Millie was there, flipping burgers like she was born for it. Kids from the community garden were running around, and a local reporter came by, said they wanted to feature me in a piece about resilience. I told her, honey, resilience is just what happens when you're too stubborn to stay down. They published that line. Front page. Suddenly, I was getting calls from talk shows, podcasts, women's magazines. Everyone wanted Granny Mags, but I didn't chase fame. I just kept living my truth, loud, classy, and a little sassy. Then one evening, I got another letter from Daniel again. This time, it was short. Mom, I'm clean. Got a steady job. I'm sorry for everything. I don't deserve your love, but I hope you're proud of me. I read it 3 times. Then I cried, not from pain, but from release. Because even broken things can grow again if they get enough light. I didn't reply. Not yet. Some wounds need silence to finish healing. But deep down, I knew maybe one day we'd talk again. Just not as victim and abuser. As mother and son who finally learned how to love right. That night, sitting by the window again with my glass of Merlot, I whispered, see, Lord, you knew what you were doing. You just needed me to walk through the fire first. Because sometimes, God don't remove you from the storm. He makes you the thunder in it. So yeah, they thought I was gone. They thought that old lady packed her bags for good. But I came back, stronger, louder, and freer than ever. And every time I walk past that oak tree in my backyard, I smile. 'Cause that tree's still standing. And so am I. You know what's funny? After everything, the bruises, the betrayal, the cops, the headlines, peace didn't come crashing in like thunder. It tiptoed, soft, patient, quiet, like a sunrise that don't need applause to shine. These days, my mornings start slow. I wake up to the smell of jasmine from the garden, make myself some hazelnut coffee, and sit by the window wearing the same pearl necklace I wore the day I took my house back. Those pearls ain't just jewelry anymore. They're armor. Every bead a reminder that I survived what was meant to break me. I started writing letters again. Not to Daniel, not yet, but to myself. Letters saying thank you for not giving up when things got dark. For choosing peace over payback. For learning that forgiveness is a luxury you earn. When your heart's healed enough to offer it without losing yourself. Sometimes I read those letters out loud, and I swear, I can almost hear my late husband laughing from heaven saying, "That's my Maggie. Still got that fire." Every week, folks from the neighborhood drop by. They bring baked goods, stories, hugs, and sometimes problems. Young moms ask how to start over. Older women whisper about husbands who turned cruel. And I tell them all the same thing. You don't need $1 million to walk away. You just need 1 ounce of courage and a plan. They nod, sometimes cry, sometimes laugh. And every time, I see myself in their eyes, scared, tired, but still standing. So I started a little club. We meet every Sunday on my porch, call it Pearls and Power. No dues, no fancy rules. Just stories, coffee, and women teaching other women how to fight life storms without losing their shine. Now don't get me wrong, I still got scars. When I look at my wrist, I can see faint bruises that time couldn't fully erase. But I wear them proud. They're not reminders of pain. They're proof of survival. Some nights I still think about Daniel, where he is, if he's eaten, if he's learning. And while I don't plan on opening the door again soon, I keep a light on by the porch, just in case he ever comes knocking as a better man. Because here's the truth. Baby, love don't die easy. But respect, that's gotta be earned every damn day. A few weeks ago, I got invited to speak at a local women's conference. Me, a 72-year-old grandma from Brooklyn with a big mouth and bigger heart. They wanted me to talk about empowerment. I told that crowd, empowerment ain't loud. It ain't wearing heels or yelling slogans. It's the moment you realize you don't owe anybody your silence. And the crowd went wild. I saw young girls standing up, clapping, crying. And for the first time, I understood my story wasn't just about taking my house back. It was about taking myself back. When the speech ended, a teenage girl came up to me, freckles, braces, little shaky voice, and said, "Ms. Russo, my mom watches your videos. She left my dad last year because of you." I hugged that girl so tight. And in that moment, I knew my story had done what it was supposed to do, not just entertain, but wake people up. Now, every time I walk through my garden, I whisper a little prayer. Not for revenge, not for regret, just gratitude. Because peace ain't quiet. It's steady. It's sitting in your own backyard, drinking lemonade, knowing the war's over and you won. And when I water that old oak tree, I tell it, we made it, old friend. Storms passed. The leaves rustle like it's saying back. Took you long enough, lady, you see. I used to think strength was shouting louder than your pain. But now I know. Real strength is smiling when they expect you to crumble. It's walking away with grace when you could have burned it all down. It's building peace so solid, they can't even whisper your name without remembering who you became. So yeah, they threw a backyard bash thinking Granny was gone. But Granny came back, pearls on, papers signed, heart unbreakable. And I didn't just take back my house. I took back my power. Moral of the story. Peace ain't passive, it's power wrapped in silence. Kindness ain't weakness, it's the loudest revenge there is. And self-respect? That's the one thing no one can steal unless you let M. So keep your pearls polished, your papers in order, and your spirit unshakable. 'Cause when life tries to knock you out, baby, just fix your lipstick and say, you hit like my son, and I survived him. If y'all made it this far, hit that subscribe button, sugar, 'cause these stories ain't just tales. They're reminders that strength comes in every age, every accent, every set of pearls. I'm Granny Mags, Brooklyn born, battle tested, and blessed beyond belief. Remember, they can take your house, your money, your peace for a minute, but they can't touch your power. Stay savage, stay kind, and I'll see y'all in the next story.